What if I told you a language was declared completely dead, unreadable for thousands of years, and then one soldier, by pure accident, knocked down a wall and brought the whole thing back to life? Would you believe it? 1799, a hot, dusty day. An ordinary French soldier is doing routine wall repairs. His spade suddenly strikes something. He digs into the ground and pulls out a massive black slab of stone. At that moment, no one knows this stone is about to change the course of history. This is the Rosetta Stone. The same text is carved into it in 3 different scripts. When scholars compared the familiar Greek writing at the bottom with the mysterious symbols above, the hieroglyphs, a language silent for thousands of years suddenly began to speak again. Think about it. The names, the loves, even the jokes of the people who built the pyramids suddenly came to light. So where did this massive civilization actually begin? Let's go back to the start, because if you stay until the end, you'll see this story finishes somewhere you never expected. From the desert to the river's edge. Thousands of years ago, North Africa kept getting drier and drier. People were forced into the banks of the Nile because everything around them had become desert. But life along the river still went on. Now listen, because this is where it gets interesting. Every summer the Nile flooded. But this wasn't a disaster. It was actually a blessing. When the water receded, it left behind rich, black, fertile mud. This simple mud is what turned wandering nomads into farmers. In the Fayum oasis, people learned to store grain underground in pits lined with straw. Sounds simple, right? But it was actually a kind of revolution. The fear of starvation was gone. The problem started right after that. A full storehouse attracts attention, and raiders knew it too. People had to band together for protection. 2 crowns, 1 war. 2 completely different worlds had formed along the Nile. In the north, a wide, fertile delta open to the sea, living on trade, people wearing the red crown. In the south, a narrow, harsh valley hemmed in by mountains, tougher tribes wearing the white crown. Which side would you have been on? The easy, open sea life or the hard, battle-tested mountain valley? Drop your answer in the comments, but first, hear how these 2 worlds collided. For centuries, these 2 worlds eyed each other with suspicion. Then, around 3000 BC, everything changed. A southern ruler named Narmer marched his army north. We know this event from a stone called the Narmer palette. On one side, Narmer wears the white crown and strikes down his enemy. Flip it over, and you won't believe your eyes. It's the same man, this time wearing the red crown. The message was simple. The 2 lands now belonged to one person. Narmer fused the 2 crowns into a single brand new double crown. And that's how the idea of the pharaoh was born. An ordinary warrior transformed overnight into a living god on earth. The mother of the pyramids. Once Egypt was unified, wealth, labor, and order all came under one hand. That power was soon poured into stone. For a pharaoh named Djoser, a brilliant official named Imhotep tried something new. Instead of a simple grave, he stacked stone blocks on top of one another. And so the first pyramid, the Step Pyramid, was born. But here's something both funny and incredible. The first attempts weren't always successful. A pharaoh named Sneferu built a pyramid, but during construction, the outer layers slipped and collapsed, a total disaster. He didn't give up. He tried again. This time, massive cracks appeared mid-build, so the builders changed the angle halfway up. The result? The bent pyramid. Tourists still laugh today asking, what kind of pyramid is this? On the 3rd try, he finally succeeded. The Red Pyramid, history's first smooth-sided pyramid. See how many failures lie behind every success? Sneferu's son, Khufu, used all that hard-earned experience to build the Great Pyramid of Giza. Look at the numbers and be amazed. Roughly 2 million stone blocks, weighing 6 million tons in total. For comparison, a modern construction crane can lift only about 20 tons at once. They built this with rope, wooden rollers, and pure human strength. That means a modern crane would have had to make over 300,000 lifts to match it. Now here's a fact that might shock you. For years, people said slaves built the pyramids. But archaeologists have found an entire city built for the workers. The bones show they ate meat every day, had broken bones properly treated, and even underwent surgery. So this wasn't slave labor, it was a national program, a massive project that brought the whole country together during the months when farming came to a halt. Drought destroys everything. But endless construction came at a heavy price. The treasury began to drain. Then, around 2200 BC, disaster struck. The rains stopped. The Nile didn't flood. The fields dried up and cracked. Power collapsed in the capital, Memphis. Local governors raised their own armies and began raiding each other's grain stores. Civil war. Archaeologists have found mass graves from this period, bones bearing clear signs of violence. One ancient text describes this era vividly. The river turned to blood. Thieves looted the tombs of kings. The wealthy wandered the streets in rags. The whole world had turned upside down. Notice that even 4,000 years ago, people felt the same fear we feel today, the fear of the whole system collapsing. The South strikes back. Two powers emerged from the chaos, one dynasty in the north and a stronger, more battle-hardened one in the south, based in Thebes. After more than a century of struggle, Mentuhotep II won and reunified the country. This was the beginning of the Middle Kingdom, Egypt's golden age. This time the pharaohs learned their lesson. Instead of massive tombs, they built canals, irrigated the Fayum oasis, and created thousands of acres of new farmland, so famine would never strike again. And notice this, before only the pharaoh had the right to an afterlife. Now, ordinary people could enter paradise too if they had lived honestly. The heart was weighed on the scale of justice. For the first time, common people felt real dignity. Foreign guests knew weapons. From the east, from Canaan, people slowly began arriving, the Hyksos. They didn't come by force, they simply settled in, learned local customs, and gradually took power. Can a country change hands without anyone even noticing? History shows, yes, it can. They brought something Egypt wasn't ready for, the war chariot, a fast horse-drawn platform carrying an archer. Egyptian foot soldiers stood no chance against it. But the princes of Thebes in the south secretly learned this weapon, acquiring horses and bronze. Then a young prince named Ahmose used the very weapon he'd learned from his enemy, the chariot, to drive the Hyksos out of the country. The weapon once used against Egypt now saved it. This marked the beginning of the new kingdom. A female pharaoh and a commander called Napoleon. Here's an interesting twist. When a young boy took the throne, his stepmother, Hatshepsut, seized power for herself and declared herself full pharaoh. She chose trade over war, sending an expedition to the land of Punt, returning with gold, ivory, even living incense trees. Her masterpiece, the temple at Deir el-Bahari, still stands today. Then her stepson, Thutmose III, took the throne. Historians call him the Napoleon of Egypt. In 20 years, 17 military campaigns, never a single defeat. At the Battle of Megiddo, he stunned the enemy by marching his army through a narrow pass his own generals considered too dangerous. The king who banished all the gods. Now listen closely, because this might be the strangest part of all. Imagine a leader who shuts down every temple in the country overnight. Around 1350 BC, a pharaoh named Amenhotep IV did exactly that. He abolished the gods worshipped for thousands of years, smashed their statues, and declared there was only one true god, the sun disk. He even changed his own name to Akhenaten. He even changed art itself, having himself depicted with an elongated skull, sunken eyes, a strange, distorted form. But this revolution collapsed overnight the moment he died. When his young son Tutankhamun took the throne, the old religion was restored, and his father's name was erased from history entirely, left as a blank space in the record books. Erasing one man's entire legacy? Isn't that the most ancient version of cancel culture? Ramesses the Great and history's first peace treaty. Ramesses II, known as the Great, fought the Hittite Empire at the Battle of Kadesh. His army was nearly surrounded, but reinforcements arrived just in time. When he came home, he had himself carved on temple walls as a lone hero who won single-handedly. But Hittite clay tablets tell a different story. In truth, no one won. Both sides were simply exhausted. So this was, in a way, history's oldest piece of propaganda. His most famous monument, the Temple of Abu Simbel, carved into solid rock, where twice a year sunlight beams straight into its inner chamber. In the 1960s, when a new dam threatened to flood it, modern engineers had to cut the entire temple into pieces and move it up the mountain, a project that itself took years. Just imagine, ancient people carved this by hand, thousands of years earlier. Collapse, darkness, and the final silence. Under Ramesses III, mysterious invaders known as the Sea Peoples burned their way across the Mediterranean. Egypt survived at this time thanks to a clever naval defense, but the treasury was drained. Even history's first recorded labor strike happened during this period, when tomb builders' wages were delayed. After that, Egypt grew steadily weaker. The Libyans, then the Nubian Black Pharaohs, then the Assyrians, then the Persians, each in turn seized the ancient throne. Finally, in 332 BC, a young Macedonian king, Alexander the Great, entered Egypt. The people welcomed him as a liberator. He even crossed the desert to a remote oracle to have himself declared son of the god. Then he founded the city of Alexandria. After his death, Egypt fell to the Ptolemaic dynasty, Greek by blood, but ruling in the guise of pharaohs. The last of them, Cleopatra, was the only one in 300 years who actually learned the Egyptian language. She allied first with Caesar, then with Mark Antony, trying to stand against Rome, but lost everything at the Battle of Actium. According to legend, she took her own life with the bite of a venomous snake rather than be dragged through Rome in chains. And so the 3,000-year throne of the pharaohs came to an end. Rome turned Egypt into nothing more than a grain warehouse, cut funding to the temples, and the line of priests died out. Until in 394 AD, the last person who could read hieroglyphs passed away, and the voice of ancient Egypt fell completely silent. 1,000 years later, until a French soldier's spade struck that stone. Now you know. A 3,000-year-old secret began speaking again in a single instant. So tell me, do you really think these ancient civilizations are dead? Or have they always been ready to speak to us and we simply forgot how to listen? Leave your thoughts in the comments, share this if you enjoyed it so more people can hear it, and I'll see you in the next video.